Spoiler warning. The following discussion will contain spoilers. We recommend checking out the movie first, then coming back to hang with us. But if you don't care about that, glad to have you here. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Real Review. My name is Kevin.
And I'm John.
And we are the Real Movie Guys. On today's episode, we're going to be reviewing Jaws 2 because we are still in Stay Out of the Water month. Jaws 2 takes place about 4 years after the first film. Jaws 2 sees Chief Brody defending Amity Island from another great white shark attack. However, the citizens don't believe him and it's a race against time as Brody must find a way to stop this menace and save his two sons' lives as they become the shark's next targets.
Dun 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 dun.
Ugh. Dum 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 is more like it, not dun 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 dun. Why did this happen? I mean, I know why it happened in hindsight. I mean, Jaws 1 made so much money. Let's be realistic here. So they said, all right, let's capitalize on that and let's make a sequel. So, John, you've seen this before, right? Have you seen this movie before?
Yeah,
Watching
I've
it
seen
for
this
this
one.
review?
Yeah, I've seen this one before.
So what are your thoughts on it? I want to hear what you think first before I, start going into it a little bit.
Uh, it's a forgettable movie. I mean, it's weird because after watching it again this time,
Right.
it's almost like a knockoff of the first one, where they have almost like the same things kind of going on in the same ways. There's a
Right.
little bit more like blood and gore in this one than the
Right.
first one, but it still seems like it's almost like here's the same plot again, you
Right.
know?
Well, you see the shark more, which isn't a good thing. Let's put it that way. You see him a lot more. I think this is the beginning of the end of Jaws. This was the start. It's not. This movie isn't terrible. I wouldn't say it's the worst thing I've ever seen, especially compared to what's to come. But this movie, it didn't do anything. What it did was it took the shark character of the whole idea of man versus nature, like the Moby Dick style story, and made the shark a slasher villain like Jason and Michael Myers. That's essentially what he is. The shark's just going around killing people. Uh, it's not no longer an animal. It's now a monster that just goes and kills everybody. Uh, it's really strange. I get the turn in a way, but at the same time, it really bothers me. Uh, let's talk about some of the positive things before I really rip into this movie. I did like Brody's return in this movie. I think Roy Scheider plays, he played Brody great in this movie. It's no secret he didn't want to be in this movie. He did everything he could to try and get out of his contract for this movie, trying to fight the director. I think he punched him in the face, to acting like a crazy person on set, like he trashed a hotel room and said he was insane. Yeah, it kind of shows. It's even better because Roy Scheider in this movie, which is a negative, which I might as well talk about now. The logic thing is they don't believe him, which I find kind of strange because he went through this all already, and now you're in this movie again and they don't believe him. So Roy Scheider's pretty much playing this crazed man. One of the best scenes in the movie, I think, is when he's on the beach and he starts shooting off his gun just into the ocean. You see how crazy he is, and
Yeah.
the only problem with that is that we know there's a shark. Though this plot only works if we didn't know there was a shark already. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to say Roy Scheider's crazy. There is no shark. That these are all just coincidences. That could potentially work. That is an interesting idea, and it's cool to see someone unravel, especially after everything that happened in the first movie. The problem is we know there's a shark, so there's no
Yeah.
suspense as if to this is really happening or not. We already know it is.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's really annoying. The whole movie, you're like, okay, well, there really is a shark. It's just a stupid retread. but back to the positives. I do like the soundtrack of this movie a lot. I think the soundtrack still holds up really well. We have the classic Jaws theme. I don't think it's used as much in this movie. I think it's used a little bit less. But the soundtrack they use for the teenagers in this movie adds a very like youthful sound to everything. Very happy, very John Williams. Let's go on an adventure, and I really do like that. Um, what would you say is something you like about? Do you enjoy the soundtrack too, or what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I enjoyed the soundtrack in this one too. I think that the good thing about these movies is that the soundtrack always seems to be one of the high positives of this movie,
Right.
and it always just adds to the intense feeling of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like especially in certain scenes
Mm-hmm.
where like if without the soundtrack, without the sound being so good, it would just make the movie even worse than what it was.
Right. Right. No, I can see that. Uh, so let's get into some of the other positives. Now, there are a couple scenes that I really do like in this movie. Uh, we'll start with the ski kill at the beginning of the movie, where the woman's skiing and then she's just taking clean right off the skis, and then the guy looks behind and like, oh, where'd she go? Or the girl looks behind. I think that's a really cool scene. I do think that's really awesome. It reminds me of like a classic kind of Jaws kill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little newer, but it's still I like it. I think it's really wild. Uh, as stupid as it is, the Jaws sank a helicopter, right?
Yeah.
It's really stupid, but it's really awesome at the same time. I mean, you have this great white pretty much come out of the water and just like grab it down and drags down a helicopter into the ocean. Again, really stupid, but really awesome and really well done, I think, at the same time. I think that was really cool. It subverted my expectation for that. I didn't think that was going to happen. If anything, I thought maybe the pilot would get out and get eaten. But no, no, the shark just, drags down a helicopter. So we're going to go with that. And I think that's pretty cool. Were there any other scenes that you liked in this movie, would you say?
Um, I like some of the part. I like that there was more like blood and gore in this one.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of made me feel like the shark was more of like a terror, like something that kills a lot of people instead of like just like this one random attack almost, or
Mm-hmm.
like two random attacks.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of seemed more like, okay, now you know that he's kind of out there and that he's kind of hunting in a way.
So do you like this better in the sense that this is more of a slasher film? Do you think that's better?
I think it works better for this film.
Okay. No, it's interesting. Okay. Um, so we have that. I will give the movie credit. The last thing I'll really give it credit for, the end scene I think is actually pretty decently well done for the most part when they're on the island. I can't remember the name of it. Was it Cable Island? They say it a
Yeah,
couple times in the movie, whatever it is. But the whole thing with the teens being stranded on the boats. I think that's actually a pretty well from that point forward. I actually do enjoy the movie. To be quite honest, I think that was
really.
probably the most it was the most well done thing, especially because it was building tension. You didn't know what was going to happen. The shark doing what a shark probably would do at that point, circling, trying to take people down. Even the cable kill, as stupid as that is, they killed the shark by exploding him. Uh,
Well, yeah,
which
that's what I was gonna say
I
too.
mean, it's not "smile, you son of a." It's not that line, which I love that line. That's probably one of the greatest like movie quotes in history. You just have what was it? Say open wide, and then he puts a cable in his mouth. It's like, all right, that's kind of lame.
But
I
it's funny
mean,
though that
yeah,
because if plus also if you think about it too, he puts a cable that he's holding
yeah.
into the shark's mouth, and he doesn't get electrocuted or nothing happens to him, but somehow the shark
Well, here's
dies.
here's the thing. So
Like,
I thought about that. You're right. I thought about that, but I realized too. He's in a rubber boat, right? It's a completely rubber boat, and based on the scene, it's to its credit, it's edited poorly. He throws the cable in the shark's mouth, and then he like rolls into the boat. The problem is the shot before we get to the next shot is the boat's really close to that cable. So even if you're in a rubber boat, something's probably going to happen to you. You're going to get some kind of debris or something going on. But the shot right after that, you see the boat's like significantly farther away from the cable after he threw it in the shark's mouth. Uh, that's where we get into the negatives. There's a lot of logic issues in this movie. That being one of them. Again, I can kind of defend it with the rubber boat, but at the same time, I really can't, especially with the shot composition. Not even that. I think, like I said earlier, the whole thing with them not believing Brody is just really annoying. I mean, the man has. They show in the one scene he has the Amity Man of the Year award. So you're saying his opinion, his thoughts have no sway on anyone in that town?
Well, yeah, it's so weird.
Like, that makes no
Uh,
sense to me. I'm really sorry. Like, the man knows what he's seen. You have a giant killer whale beached on the shore, which is a reference to the horror movie Orca. Maybe something we should have covered, but again, they've been there, whatever. Uh, yeah, I mean, what's gonna eat a killer whale?
yeah,
Especially a giant bite radius. I mean, come on, give the man a little more credit than that. I just don't see how this works, honestly.
yeah. Well, I also thought that there was one bad part too,
Mm-hmm.
where he's on the boat and he's trying to go search for like
Mm-hmm.
the lighthouse,
Right.
but it seems like he has absolutely no idea where he's going. So
Yeah.
for a cop that's been around this area for as long as he's been a cop or as long as he's lived there,
Mm-hmm.
he has no clue where he's going.
Well,
Like he's literally going. It seems like he's going left, and he goes for a little bit, and then he comes back and he goes right.
I
So
mean,
it's kind of like
you can
seems just
defend
weird
it.
and
You can slightly defend it, only because it's even in the beginning scene, which they reference in the first movie. He hates traveling in the water. He hates traveling on the water. Even when he takes the ferry, he sits in his car while his car is ferried. In the beginning scene of the movie, which I thought was a nice touch, he's actually sitting in his truck as it's getting ferried over, and he looks like so annoyed. So I mean, I guess I could see him not being on the water as much. I guess he's competent enough to run a boat because he has to, but other than that, maybe he's just his seabearing legs aren't there. But you're right. There's definitely some logic with that. It's really stupid. I don't know. This movie's really stupid. But it's enjoyable. I don't want to say. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's an okay sequel. I'd say it's okay at best. Though my big there's a couple other things that really bother me. So all the teenagers are terrible in this movie, which is typical of a slasher movie. Maybe not what I've come to expect for a Jaws movie, but again, all the teenagers are terrible actors. None of them can act. The one girl's like screaming nonstop, and it's not even like good screaming, which take that for what it is. But it's just like nonsensical like weirdness, and he's like, oh my god, just like going crazy. Like, okay, and then you have other people who aren't even like reacting. So
yeah.
I don't know what that's about.
Well, also
Very uneven.
it also seems weird because all their boats are just sitting out there at one point,
Right.
and then randomly the shark will go by,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't really do anything. He kind of just knocks like them kind of around on the boats.
Yeah.
But you got to think about it too. Those boats still wouldn't be up now.
Right.
Like, there's no way that you have, like, in that one part, I think there's like 6 or 7 people
Mm-hmm.
in that one boat where they say in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
one of those boats can barely hold 3 people, I think it was, or 4
Yeah.
people.
Right.
So it seems just so like, okay, like you're going to be sitting out there for as long as they were sitting out there
Yeah. Well.
waiting for someone to come. And they were like,
Mm-hmm.
and then even when they were going to swim to the island, it
Right.
seems like the island seems so much closer
Mm-hmm.
to like them. Like they're almost there. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden when they're swimming, it takes them like a half hour to get there. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you meant the island. I think is funny because I was watching one of the behind the scenes, and they couldn't actually. Apparently, the island it was fake. Obviously, the island was fake. You could tell a mile away. But when they were trying to climb it, they couldn't actually climb onto the island. So them actually like falling off was pretty realistic. Because they couldn't hold on, so they're like sliding off and trying to stay on. I think that's really funny that that just coincidentally happened. I think that adds to it. I mean, I see what you're saying as far as there being too many people in the boat. Yeah, that's stupid. The problem is the thing for me that the reason why it's okay is that's using movie logic in a good way, the illogical in a good way, because you're trying to tell a story. So I'm okay with that when it helps the plot. again, not that it's smart, but it's just that happens.
Yeah, but then they could have had more of those boats sink then too.
They should have. Yeah, I could
Because
see
it
that.
seemed like half of them were just there was nobody on most of them,
Yeah.
and they were just like kind of just laying there in the water,
Well,
kind
they
of
all
like
got like stuck together. They all like crashed into one another, so it kind of made this like big super boat. But yeah, like I said, that being that, the other big thing there's subplots that go nowhere in this movie, which is another thing. So Brody's wife works with I guess he built the hotel. He's like the hotel guy. He built the hotel. They start
oh
like
yeah,
this
that weird
weird
guy.
like I don't know if she's gonna cheat on Brody subplot, but it just never goes anywhere. It's like, why is this in the movie?
Yeah, it's kind of just weird.
It's
It's kind
awkward.
of seemed
It's
pointless.
awkward. It's like they had an idea and then they're like, nah, never
It was
mind.
almost in a way to try to like get you to know about his son a little bit more too, in a weird way.
Yeah.
But it was like
But you didn't
throw
give us
that out.
anything. Yeah, you didn't give us anything, so that's a big issue. Which leads into the huge issue from this movie is it's
The
boring.
shark.
Not even that. This movie's boring. Nothing happens for a really long time until you get to the end. Really, nothing happens, and that's ironic because there are more shark attacks in this movie than the first one, but the movie's more boring because there's no tension. The pacing's
Yeah.
off. You don't know what's happening half the time. You kind of follow. You see Brody's fall into madness a little bit, but it's just so boringly told. It's uninteresting. We know there's a shark, so there's no tension there. That if there's there really a shark attack actually happening, it's so boring. So
Well,
boring.
yeah. There's also other things that like even when they're when he finally first goes out on the boat with the people, he steals the boat with his wife.
Yeah.
But then it was all of a sudden like, okay, now you and he's told that one guy, the other cop, to go home, back home with his wife,
Right.
and so he'd be out there by himself.
Hmm.
But the original reason why she went out there was she didn't want him out there by himself.
Right. Right.
So that part was just like, it seemed like a whole bunch of stuff just kind of thrown together. And
Right.
like you said, yeah, it's boring
Yeah.
to boot with that. So you're kind of like, it's a little bit rough around the
No.
edges.
And I think the final thing I'll just say about this is just this movie was unnecessary. You had a perfect first movie, which was fine. It worked great. You told a great story. You had great characters. It doesn't work in the context they were going for, which is I think the main problem that we'll see from now to the end is the shark doesn't have to like this doesn't have to be the same family. It doesn't have to be like the thing that keeps happening to people. Uh, if you did a Jaws 2, could have been different location, different family, different situation, similar to the first one yet different enough. That would have been great. I think making this a sequel was the biggest mistake it could have made. Making this a direct sequel to the last movie was the biggest mistake it could have made. I think just changing all those things I said would have greatly improved it, to be honest.
Well, yeah, and one weird thing is every time they talk about the shark, they act like the shark didn't die in the first one.
Right.
Like this is the same shark from then.
Well,
And
that's
each time they're like,
yeah.
"Whoa, it's a huge great white." Like I know it. I've seen this one, or I've seen it, or something like that.
Well, it's weird because it's never explained in any of these movies and going forward, like where the sharks come from. In the novel, though, version of this, the novel's actually pretty different. I looked into it because I was curious. Apparently, this shark is the mate of the first shark. This is like the shark's mate, so this is the female version of
Okay.
the female mate of that shark. And apparently that
Hmm.
this one was pregnant, so that would lead into like the next shark. You know what I mean? Like it ends with that
Okay.
cliffhanger. But yeah, it's never. I mean, how you would know that to begin with, I don't know. Like it'd be like, oh no, it's the mate of the last shark we killed,
Oh
or
no.
I mean, I guess you could have thrown like a piece of dialogue in there to do something like that. It might have made it a little more conceivable. We didn't touch on this, and we'll touch on this, and then we'll get to our final score. The shark is ugly as hell. uh, and then they try and like going with the whole horror motif. They freaking scar half of his face. They like charcoal burn half of his face. It's like, all right, I guess we got to give this a gnarly looking face, this stupid shark. Come on.
Yeah,
And that
seriously.
was a stupid scene too. We didn't even get into that. She's pouring gasoline over the shark and then she pours it on herself for
Yeah.
whatever reason. I mean, I guess she was nervous, so she's pouring it on herself and then she lights herself on fire like stupid.
She thought that was gonna work.
Yeah, no, just you burned the shark's face, which was you didn't need to do that. It
No,
was just the shark looks really bad. There's scenes where I feel
just more.
like, you just see like someone just like the shark just like comes up and like just sinks back in. There's a scene where I think the one of the teenagers dies. She's on the boat. I was cracking up because there's no blood at all. You just see like the shark kind of like peek its head out like this, and then it comes right back down. It's like really slow and awkward. It's just a
Yeah,
bad looking shark, and they couldn't hide it. See, the beauty of Jaws 1 is you knew the shark was bad. Like the shark didn't look great, we'll be honest, but you were able to hide it, and your imagination kind of built it up even more. This movie, there's no imagination to it. It's an ugly
no,
looking
just
foam
yeah,
shark.
it's just terrible. Well,
Terrible.
even like with that girl, she could have poured like gasoline in the shark's mouth or something, and then threw a match in there.
No, you can't.
And that would have been like a
that
cool.
would break
That
the
would have been like a
shark.
cool killing to the shark.
Yeah.
But then it was like she just lights herself on fire. Like
No, we got to scar the shark so
ser-
it looks like a monster. It looks like a monster
serves
villain.
serves no purpose to anything.
Why don't we just give him a mask and a machete and call it a day? I mean, seriously, that's what the shark ultimately became in this movie.
Wait, isn't that the next one?
Oh God. So going to our final scores, I'm going to give Jaws 2 a C minus. Again, I don't think this is the worst in the series. There's enough in it that I think you'll enjoy it if you watch it. Especially, I mean, you see a helicopter drag down into the ocean. What more do you want? I think that works. I like the character of Chief Brody enough to where I'll continue watching this movie. It doesn't turn me away completely. Yeah, it's boring, but ultimately, I think the end's enjoyable enough to where you'll have a good time watching it. John, where do you land on this movie?
I give it the exact same score you give it. C minus.
Wow, we're on the same page.
I
Is
just
there anything else you'd want people to take away from that score?
no.
No,
Just they shouldn't have done this one.
they shouldn't have done this one.
The fact that they continued after this one should tell you how much that they really struggled with
Oh,
getting rid of Jaws.
you people have no idea what's to come. No idea. So, John, where can the people find us at home?
Well, you can find us on YouTube at TheReelMovieGuys. You could also find us on Twitter at TheReelMovieGuy. Tweet at us. Let us know your opinions about these movies. Some things maybe that you saw that we didn't see. And you could also listen to us on very many podcast locations.
Yes, for your listening pleasure, we are also available in podcast form at iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, and Pocket Casts. Be sure to give us a listen at any of those fine places, and if you already are right now, hey, we greatly appreciate it. Just search Real Movie Guys, we'll pop right up. I'd like to thank all you guys for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. It is Stay Out of the Water month, so we have another review coming next. If you couldn't tell, we're going in a sequence. There is a schedule if you watch the promotional video for Stay Out of the Water month. Our next review will be Jaws 3D. Yeah, we're going to be watching that movie. Anyway, my name's Kevin. This guy over here, he's John. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Make sure you stay out of the water, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya!